Hi. So what happens if they are disqualified? It sounds like this judge, the Supreme Judge, is going to disqualify them, or there is grounds for that. Anyone you talk to can't believe that this is actually happening. So if they're disqualified, who gets this case now? And how could that affect Donald Trump?
Well, you know, it depends, Ainsley, on whether you make the leap from there needs to be a disqualification to that the disqualification may somehow have corrupted the fundamental or instigation of the investigation and the case. If they can get to that point, they have a chance to get the indictment dismissed. That's a heavy lift. So probably the case goes to subordinate prosecutors in the office. It's important to remember she's already disqualified from prosecuting one person in the case because of ethical violations during the investigation. So this isn't her first rodeo.
Okay, so if it goes to a subordinate prosecutor in her office, we probably know how they feel about this. Would it delay? Would this happen after the election?
Yeah, well, you know, it's hard to make any assessment of that because there's no trial date here. And this really isn't, there's other litigation going on where you have one defendant, I think it's Mark Meadows, who's still trying to get the case moved into federal court. They still haven't had like the major motions in the case. 4 people have pled guilty, but they've pled guilty to very minor charges. And I think that underscores what a lot of us have been saying from the beginning, which is that this case should have been brought, if at all, as a series of small cases, and she tried to wrap it into this big RICO. And now the allegation is, did she do that in order to churn the enterprise of bringing this case so that it would generate more money, since she, this is the allegation, was indirectly the recipient of the money through the people she hired.
Well, it's a new day. So, of course, with a new day comes more bad news for poor old Fanny Willis, man, and her victim, Nathan Wade. And I promise you guys, no matter how badly damaged they get by this deal, no matter what happens, even if they come out scot-free, they are going to forever regret getting involved in the same case together. I don't care how much money they're making. And they're definitely going to regret ever charging Michael Roman. Of all the co-defendants that they could have gone after, you know, they're going to regret him most of all. They could have just stopped at a nice round even 10, but they didn't. They would never. They had to get more. They had to do more. And now, I mean, everybody's asking questions. Everyone, I mean, literally everyone, from the court that she's got her case before, to her county supervisors, to the state legislature in Georgia, and now even Congress wants a piece. And she screwed up, and she knows it. She tried to clean it up by thinking she was, you know, doing the right thing by actually admitting it. But even her admission was corrupt and fraudulent. I mean, she claimed in her admission that their relationship started after she hired Nathan Wade. Tried to claim that it was their shared fixation and their passion for all things orange that just proved too magnetic. They couldn't keep their hands off each other. But even that was apparently a lie. And Michael Roman and his attorneys, they say that they have the receipts. And while all that's going on, whistleblowers are now appearing like a game of freaking whack-a-mole. But even with all that, Fanny thinks she can get out of it. She filed a last-ditch effort a couple days ago to quash the subpoena that is requiring her to appear at the hearing. And honestly, if she doesn't find a way out of this hearing, and there are some talks that she has a way out, it's probably going to be the end of the road for her career.
Mr. Wade has filed other affidavits in his divorce case which contradict this affidavit. His interrogatories, which were sworn and verified and filed in that case, said that he did not have a personal relationship, that there had been none. So we've got 2 declarations in 2 different courts, both sworn, both filed with the court, that say something completely different. His May 2023 affidavit, where he was asked if he had, and this was in 2023, Judge. So the state's response last week said they had a relationship that began in 2022. In May of 2023, he filed in the Cobb County Superior Court a pleading that said specifically if he had had any relations with a person other than his spouse during the course of the marriage, you know, and the typical things that are asked in a divorce case, and he responded none. After we filed our motion in this case, he updated those and he pled privilege under the Fifth Amendment. So we've got a filing under oath by Mr. Wade in 2023 stating he didn't have a relationship. Then we've got a filing stating he did have one starting in 2022. And then once that came about, he fixes the incorrect affidavit that was filed back in 2023. So we definitely have a conflict, Judge, in the evidence as far as when this relationship started.
Isn't that something? Here's what I want to know. Where are all the leftists that lose their mind every time Trump or some Republican pleads the fifth? You know, where are they now that their personal injury attorney turned Trump deranged prosecutor, who's also allegedly sleeping with a Trump deranged DA, first he perjured himself, and they say no one's above the law, so they should have an issue with that, and they don't. And then he went back and changed his perjury, which I didn't know you could do, to a Fifth Amendment protection. He pled the fifth once everything started unraveling. But I'm guessing that the ever upset leftists, they're going to sit this one out. And here's what I don't fully understand about our liberal friends. They're going to ignore every single bit of what's going on here. And then later this week, or whenever the judge's decision comes, they're going to be outraged like it's the first time they ever heard it. And it's all going to be a miscarriage of justice that will not stand, cannot stand, blah, blah, blah. They're going to say no judge would ever punish or impugn her if she was an evil straight white male. And they'll just feign outrage, right? And now, I'm not saying that she's going to be punished, but it's hard to make a genuine prediction on anything that Trump derangement plays such a key role in. But that said, if you listen to the words that the judge used, it seems more likely than not that she is going to get punished. Something is going to happen. I'm going to show you those words in a moment, guys. But first, if you want to be a part of a growing conservative community and getting our message heard, then make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the channel. It really, really does mean a lot to our growth. Take a look at this.
So several of the motions to quash today are arguing that we shouldn't have a evidentiary hearing at all, and that quashal is appropriate on those grounds. So to that end, in studying the law that's been filed up to this point, I think it's clear that disqualification can occur if evidence is produced demonstrating an actual conflict or the appearance of one. And the filings submitted on this issue so far have presented a conflict in the evidence that can't be resolved as a matter of law. Specifically looking at Defendant Roman's motion, it alleges a personal relationship that resulted in a financial benefit to the district attorney, and that is no longer a matter of complete speculation. The state has admitted a relationship existed, and so what remains to be proven is the existence and extent of any financial benefit, again, if there even was one. So, because I think it's possible that the facts alleged by the defendant could result in disqualification, I think an evidentiary hearing must occur to establish the record on those core allegations. So just to emphasize, I think the issues at point here are whether a relationship existed, whether that relationship was romantic or non-romantic in nature, when it formed, and whether it continues. And that's only relevant because it's in combination with the question of the existence and extent of any personal benefit conveyed as a result of the relationship. With that being said, I don't think that means that everything that has been raised in the defendant's motions, and Mr. Roman's or in the ones adopted by co-counsel, demand an evidentiary hearing. The testimony that would be produced at this hearing is not a deposition. It is still subject to the rules of evidence.
So no matter what side you're on, no matter what outcome you think you can predict, there is no universe that any of that is good news for the district attorney, which again, if you believe the media, or at least what they want their victims to believe, they believe that Fanny Willis just cannot be disqualified, that no matter what, the case goes on and she can bang whoever she wants, however she wants, wherever she wants, but the judge is pretty clear. And honestly, to me, he seems pretty damn disgusted by the whole thing, by the fact that he even has to sit through any of this nonsense for quote unquote professionals in this business. But he's pretty clear. If the evidence shows a conflict or an appearance of one, which I think is super important, she's done. And he's done. And, you know, honestly, whether or not the case is done and back to the drawing board will be a matter for another day. But as it stands right now, it's just another exhibition of Democrats accusing people of something they themselves are guilty of. And another opportunity for us to say we told you so. We don't like it, but we're getting more and more of those opportunities. But it's not even just us, people with working brains, saying we told you so. Rachel Maddow, she might be the one person in the media who's starting to freak out at the prospect of a free and clear Donald Trump.
Georgia prosecutor Fani Willis will be appearing at a hearing about whether or not she should be disqualified from her RICO case against Donald Trump in Georgia. Trump and some of his 14 co-defendants in Fani Willis's case in Georgia argue that she should be disqualified because she and one of the top prosecutors she hired for the case are involved in a personal romantic relationship. Now, Fani Willis has argued that nothing about that personal relationship is disqualifying. She's argued that Trump and his co-defendants are just using these allegations essentially as salacious distractions to try to muddy the waters and scuttle the case against them by creating a lot of public relations nonsense about this issue that has no legal consequence. That said, there was a hearing today on these allegations, and the judge in this case in Georgia said that these allegations against District Attorney Willis could result in Willis being disqualified from the case. And as such, he said he definitely wants to hear evidence on these allegations on Thursday of this week. So it all makes for a very, very busy week in terms of the legal part of our political news now. But it also puts District Attorney Fani Willis in quite a spot.
This poor girl looks like this really is the first time that she's even thinking about the possibilities here. And you almost got to feel bad for them, because liberals, they have basically put all their hopes and all their dreams into the Georgia case. Everything's pinned on that case. You know, they care about the other cases, but if you just take them one by one, the New York case, that's essentially a process crime that even if he's convicted should be guaranteed probation, slap on the wrist. The federal cases, even the truly propagandized lefties, they know that those are probably going to fall apart. And even if they don't fall apart, they're not going to make the deadline. And the important deadline is the election. The Georgia case is the only one that should make the election day deadline. And more importantly than that, if he's elected, he can't pardon himself of a state crime. And the way Georgia law is set up, not even the Georgia governor can issue a pardon until a pretty hefty portion of the sentence is actually served. So they need this, man. They need this. And poor Rachel, she sees it's completely coming apart. And the whole media is starting to today. And in the coming days, I think the left is really going to start begging Fani Willis, actually probably more like threatening Fani Willis, to step down to keep this thing on track.
I mean, regardless of what you or anybody else might think about Willis's personal relationship with this prosecutor and whether she did anything legally wrong here, the only person whose opinion really matters on that right now is the judge. And today in court, he did make clear, he did say explicitly that he thinks she might be disqualified from this case because of these allegations. Now, the key dynamic at work around this is that if Fani Willis is disqualified, fairly or unfairly, her whole office, the whole district attorney's office, is disqualified from working on that case, which would mean, in all likelihood, that whole case would go away.
I don't know, man. Maybe Rachel Maddow is not as goofy as I previously thought. You know, I know that this is just common sense, like the most common of common sense, but we have to recognize common sense is not exactly a hallmark of the left, and it's definitely not a hallmark of Rachel Maddow, because up to this point, you know, they've all been trying to pull the Bill Clinton play, which is obscure the actual potential crimes, obscure the actual potential corruptions, and just keep saying things like, you know, it's her business. Who cares who a grown adult sleeps with? It's none of our business, right? Well, to move from that all the way over to it is our business, and please, please, pretty please, don't mess up the Trump case, I think that's pretty huge for Rachel Maddow.
And that is why Georgia State University law professor Clark Cunningham argued in the New York Times last month that the best thing Fani Willis could do to protect her case against Trump and his RICO defendants in Georgia would be for her to take a leave of absence, for her to take a personal leave of absence from the district attorney's office to turn over the case to a deputy district attorney. That would end these proceedings against her effectively, and it would leave her office in charge of the case, and the case could still go forward. We contacted Professor Cunningham about this today, these new developments. He told us, quote, this action, meaning a personal leave by District Attorney Willis, should be looked at strategically as the best option she has to make this enormously distracting controversy go away and to put the case back on track, still in the control of the Fulton County DA's office. If Judge McAfee grants any of the motions to disqualify Willis at the hearing Thursday this week, then her option to take leave probably disappears at that point. Now, I should also mention the Washington Post is reporting tonight that Trump plans to attend that Thursday hearing in Georgia so he can be there in the courtroom as the details of this personal relationship between Fani Willis and this other prosecutor are laid out in open court. That should make it all the more of a circus. There will also, I believe, be cameras in that court proceeding. Don't quote me on that. But of course, Trump would like to be there regardless.
Poor Rachel, poor left, poor liberals, man. What are you going to do? They know exactly what's about to happen. Fanny Willis, I can't imagine is ever going to step aside to protect the case for a couple reasons. I think that, basically the number one, all egomaniacal, power-hungry psychopaths. She really does believe, I think, that she can walk into court on Thursday and sweet-talk the judge. She really does believe that she's going to save herself and save her office and save Nathan Wade. So she's going to give it a shot. And really, she almost has to, because if she can't make this go away, she's got the federal money problems hanging over her office. She's got the state legislature. She has one shot to basically stop them all. And on top of that, this is her case. This is her career builder. This is her Michael Avenatti moment. And no one is going to take that away from her. But it should be interesting. It should be interesting to watch for sure. That's just my take, guys. Let me know yours in the comments. And if you haven't already, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.